Hello guys, it is interesting us to see how your synchronous motor starts to behave upon loading. Okay, now let us see how your synchronous motor reacts when it starts to load or when we start to load it. Okay, so before getting into this, before behavior of synchronous motor and loading, so let us learn about the back EMF. Yes, you heard me right. The back EMF which is present in your DC machine as well as in your induction machine, the same back EMF is also present in your synchronous machine. We know that when rotor catches the synchronous speed, what happens there? The stator, that is armature conductors, cut the flux produced by the rotor conductors. When your armature conductors cut the rotor conductors flux, so what happens? An EMF is induced in the stator part, and that EMF is called as back EMF, and that back EMF will always oppose the supply voltage V phase as per the Lenz's law. So this is called as back EMF in the synchronous motor. Okay, and we know that back EMF per phase, we know that three phases are there in synchronous motor and the stator. So per phase, if I write back EMF equation, then it will be 4.44 kc/kd flux phi frequency as well as turns per phase. It is similar to that of your EMF equation of your transformer. Okay, with some changes, minor changes. And we know that kc, kd as well as flux as well as turns are constant. So sorry, frequency is constant, pardon, frequency is constant, but flux is variable. Flux depends on the field current. Flux depends on the field current. So rest of them are constants. So your EMF induced in per phase is proportional to the flux. If I have control over the flux or field current excited to the rotor, then I can have control over the EMF induced per phase in the stator winding. Okay, so back EMF depends on the field current and not on the speed. Okay, so here we know that it is similar. We know that your synchronous motor is similar to that of your three-phase induction motor. So here also there comes synchronous impedance in the stator part per phase. So I can write ZS equal to RA plus JXS ohm per phase. So like this, we will be having three such phases. This is only one phase. It is mentioned here, where RA is the armature resistance, where XS is the synchronous reactance of the stator per phase. So similar to the DC motor, I can write voltage equation for synchronous motor, that is V phase equal to EB phase plus IA phase plus IA phase into ZS. Okay, this is a phasor addition of EMF induced as well as the drop due to the synchronous impedance. Okay, if I rewrite in terms of armature current I, then it will be what? IA phase equal to V phase minus EB phase per phase divided by ZS. Okay, now let us see for an ideal condition on no load. Whenever I say ideal condition means, remember there are no any losses. Losses like there are no any constant losses, there are no any copper losses. So if there are no any losses, then this particular part will be zero, because this is the term here it is mentioned, it is because of loss. If there is no any loss means there is no any drawing of current, there is only armature current, so IF is equal to 0. So multiplied with 2 ZS will be 0. So in that case, what happens? Your V phase will be equal to EB per phase. So that's why it is written V phase equal to EB per phase. Now we can see a scenario here where there is a proper exactly magnetic coupling between the stator as well as the rotor poles, where the magnetic axis of both the rotor as well as stator are overlapping on each other. In this case, what happens? EB phase is exactly equal to V phase, but it is in the opposite direction as per this phasor diagram. Yes or not? EB phase is pointing at the left side, whereas V phase is pointing at the right side, and they are exactly having 180-degree phase difference between each other. Okay, so that what happens? If I substitute that because as I told there are no any losses means your armature current will be 0. If I substitute that I is equal to 0, then what happens? V phase minus EB phase equal to 0, that is V phase equal to EB phase. But remember, due to the back EMF which opposes the V phase always, so that's why they are not in the what? They are equal and opposite to each other. They are not in the same direction. The reason is the back EMF opposes the V phase. Okay. But in practice, it is not possible. Some amount of constant loss as well as copper loss does occur even after you have no load condition. So EB phase and V phase are never what 180 degrees to each other. Okay. So that thing we are going to learn the synchronous motor on load condition with losses. Okay. Here I am considering the losses, but still it is no load condition. Remember. Okay. The other above topic was also on no load, but it was ideal condition, and this topic is also a no load condition, but we are considering the copper loss as well as the constant losses. And we all came to know that EV phase and V phase are magnitude wise same, because as we don't having any load condition applied to this. And again we know that EV per phase is proportional to the flux and flux proportional to the field current applied to the rotor part. Now you can see that your rotor is falling. This is your stator, and this is your stator axis, and this is your rotor axis. And you can see that the rotor is falling the stator by certain angle called as delta. Okay, you can see it is called as delta. So that's why rotor is falling back. Always remember, rotor axis falls back the stator axis by certain angle. It is called as delta. And this is just for two poles, and the remaining poles you can see here. This is your stator axis, and you can see this is your rotor axis. Always your rotor and stator axis will make certain angle called as delta, and the delta is due to what? Due to the losses even after your motor is in the no load condition. Always your rotor axis falls back the stator axis. And again this angle delta is called as what? Load angle, power angle, coupling angle, torque angle, or angle of retardation. So you should remember all these names. So this is denoted as delta. Always remember, rotor angle and stator angle are not overlapping on each other practically, as it happened in your ideal condition. Both were in the same axis. Yes or not? Yes. But here what happened? Here it doesn't happen so practically. Some amount of angle is always present between the rotor axis as well as the stator axis. You can see there are some stretched flux lines. The reason why they are stretched, because as you go on loading and loading, the stretching will increase. The stretching will increase, and the delta will also increase. But after applying certain increase of the load, then what happens? Delta remains constant even after application of load again and again within the rated limits and all. Your motor still it will be what? Having the constant speed. Okay, motor will never run at the slip speed. Okay, motor will always run at the constant speed even after you load and load till the rated conditions are reached. This flux lines will go into what? Stretch and stretch and stretch as you increase the load. So delta will also increase. Okay, but as per this topic, there is no any load applied to this, so delta will be constant and delta will be very, very, very small. Okay, and again if I draw the phasor for that, what? V phase equal to EB phase plus I into ZS per phase. So what happens? You can see that it is similar to that of your earlier phasor diagram. V phase I am drawing here, but EB phase I am drawing at an angle delta. Why this delta has occurred? Delta is due to the what? Losses, like constant losses as well as the small amount of copper losses. And due to this EB phase and V phase, what happens? There develops the resultant phase, that is IA into ZS. Okay, before it was 0, as EB phase and V phase were opposite to each other, that is 180 degree. But since they are not opposite to each other, they are having certain angle delta here due to the losses. So there creates a loss, that is IA into ZS loss, and this is the resultant loss. Okay, and again this is the V phase here. Just it is can be shown in the form of dotted line here. Again, if this is delta, and this will be also delta as per the what? As per the geometry concerned. Okay, and as I said, delta is small. Why it is small? It is small because of the load applied is very, very less. That is, you can call it as what? No load condition also, or light load condition. Okay, and this OB phasor is called as IA into ZS. It is also called as what? Resultant ER phase. And this is resultant E phase is caused due to the what? Losses. Okay, if losses are not there, means this would be 0. Okay, and it is always product of what? Armature current as well as synchronous impedance per phase. like I said here, as delta is small, ER phase is also small. Why it is small? Because if delta is small means IA what drawn will be also less, so product will be also less, so hence ER phase will be also less. Okay, as delta increases, IA will increase, ER phase will also increase. That we can study in this topic, that is synchronous motor on load condition. Okay, like I said, as you increase the load again and again, what happens? The delta value will again increases. Okay, delta value will again increase, but as I said, the speed will be always remain constant if I run the synchronous motor within certain limits as per stated on the nameplate of the synchronous motor. Okay, so due to increase in the load, what happens? The difference between V phase and EB phase increases. Yes or not? The difference between V phase and E phase increases. That is IA increases. That is what I'm trying to say. IA will increase. So the product IA ZS per phase will also increase. As you can see, that we are taking two condition here. This is light load. It's not like the earlier one. I have applied certain load here, but it is little bit, or you can say small load I am applying, but still you can see here EB phase and V phase are the same length, same line, same length and all, but delta 1 is increased here when compared to this. Yes or not? Delta was small here, but now delta is increased to delta 1 as I'm applying the load. So due to this applying of the load, what happens? Your ER1 phase will also increase. Before it was small, now it has got increased. Okay, now you can see for the heavy load condition, again what happens? Again I'm going to increase further more load. So what happens? Delta 2 is greater than delta 1. As I'm going to increase the load, delta will also increase. So delta 2 is greater than the earlier delta 1. So what happens now? Again ER2 phase, again it will increase in this length. Okay, so again what I can conclude here? ER2 phase is greater than ER1 phase. Similarly IA2 is also greater than IA1, because for the second scenario we have the heavy load condition. Now we shall jump to the constant excitation circle. Okay, constant excitation circle. Okay, you can see here V phase is common and we have plenty of EB phases here. This one, depending upon the load condition here. So let us see the first diagram. That is, first you can see V phase is drawn horizontally, and next you can see this is the EB phase for the load delta 1. Let us say some load is applied, that is nothing but delta 1, and due to EB phase and V phase we get resultant phase, that is ER phase, that is IA1 into ZS. This is the one. Okay, this is the first figure. Next, let us say again I have increased the load, say for delta 2. Again my EB phase has displaced by angle delta 2, again the same common V phase, and for again this, as I said, as the delta increases, your ER phase will also increase. This is your ER phase 2, so it is called as IA2 ZS. This is the ER phase 2. So again ER phase got increased. Again further I'm going to increase the load to delta 3. You can see EB phase is over here, V phase is over here. Again you can see for this ER phase is over here, and it is called as IA3 into ZS. Again the losses have been increased. Okay, this effect of constant excitation and then for variable load is nothing but what? Combination of various loads and superimposing on each other. Okay, it's a combination of various loads for the same synchronous motor, again superimposing on each other. So I got ER1 phase, ER2 phase, ER3 phase for EB phase 1, EB phase 2, EB phase 3 for common V phase. Okay, and one more thing what you can see is constant excitation. You can see if I draw a circle for this locus, I get a circle like this. It's called as a locus of IAZS. Locus means what? A point or end point of IAZS. It seems to be a circle. It appears to be a circle. It's a constant excitation one. As I don't know that here for this particular topic, I'm not varying any field current. Flux is always constant for this topic, but what changes here we are doing is only the change in load from lighter load to heavy load only. That is the reason why your EB phase is not varying. We know that V phase is always constant. I'm not varying supply voltage, but I can vary EB phase, but for this condition I'm not varying EB phase, because EB phase is proportional to flux and flux is proportional to field current. As I'm not varying field current, so EB phase remains constant. So V phase is also constant, EB phase is also constant. Only one thing is what variable is IA into ZS, that is resultant phase. ER phase is variable. You can see this is of this length, and this is of this length, and this is of this length. So the magnitudes of this ER phase is continuously changing. As I am increasing the load, the ER phase is also increasing. If I draw if I draw a circle at the loci of the IZS, I would be getting like this. Okay, the dotted line, whatever it is shown, it is called as what? Constant excitation circle. Remember, E phase, V phase are constant here. Only the one variable is your ER phase.